Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Sandra Peart, Dean of the Jepson School of Leadership Studies, and it's my very great pleasure to welcome all of you to Finale. This is the event at which we recognize our seniors. We tell them how much we appreciate their achievements, and we wish them all great success in the future. This event bookends Prelude, at which we admitted our students who are graduating in 2014. And I just want to go on record to say that it's been a very short 2.5 years. It seems like just yesterday that we admitted this class. I'd like to say a few words about our graduating class today. We have 68 majors at the Jepson School, many of whom I think are with us today, 11 minors for a total of 79 graduates. The University of Richmond graduating class this year is 857 students. So our students, majors and minors, are 9% of the overall graduating class. Yet we're overrepresented in some very key areas. 18% of our students, we make up 18% of students admitted to PBK, 17% of those elected to mortarboard, and 18% of those admitted into Omicron Delta Kappa. 31 of you are double majors. You have combined this major with a major in WGSS, international studies, business, finance, PPEL, economics, psychology, and others. 45 of you studied abroad. You're from all over the United States and other countries as well. You're now headed to graduate programs in nursing, in law, in higher education, modern and contemporary art, and biomedical science. We're a very diverse group. You will start careers in Altria, Spotsylvania, Cap One, Dow Jones, Latham & Watkins, M&T Bank, a governor's office, Amazon, the U.S. Army, Deloitte, Soapbox Soaps, the French Ministry of Education. Some of you are still undecided about your future, and I want to assure all of you that you'll find something meaningful and exciting before long. We'd like to now share a video with you and your family members to give us some time to reflect on those very short 2.5 years that you spent at the Jepson School. So enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. We're so excited to share our 3 years of Jepson memories with all of you.
Jepson has been an extremely integral part of our lives, so I really suggest that you get your tissues out.
And we're so excited to introduce the Jepson class of 2014.
Enjoy.
I actually had no idea that Jepson would be the path that I would be taking here at Richmond. I'm also a Bonner Scholar, so we had to take Justice and Civil Society, so it made me come to leadership studies, and I just really felt like this is my passion, and I honestly felt like once I took that class that this was the thing that I knew would fuel me for the rest of my life. A lot of people, they search forever and ever trying to figure out what's that thing in life that really sparks them. And when I took Justice and Civil Society, I knew it was education, and I knew that I had to stay in Jepson.
My older brother was a leadership studies major, and the funny thing is that I never even wanted to follow my brother to college. He grunted at me all through high school. He's 3 years older than I am. But then I came to Richmond to visit him, and I saw that my grunting older brother turned into a bright, articulate young man. And I thought there must be something special about Richmond. And I think what I realized was that it was Jepson.
Professor Kaufman, who I'm sure most of us know quite well, came in and really challenged the class to think about what he was assigning to be read, and challenged everybody to have quality discussion questions, and that's when I thought that I really wanted to get into Jepson.
So when I was looking at colleges, we looked at over 26 schools. My mom was a little gung-ho about the college search, and Jepson really was what drew me to Richmond.
I always left class kind of thinking about the topics that we talked about, and I didn't have that experience with any of my other introductory courses, so that's really what grabbed me.
It was just something that stood out to me right away, and I think Jepson students think differently than other students here on campus, and I wanted to challenge myself with that.
I chose Jepson pretty much before I chose the University of Richmond. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to major in, and I had no idea. But the Jepson school, I came to all of the information sessions, and I heard about the critical thinking and problem-solving skills and how badly graduates needed those, and that really appealed to me. So I chose to major in leadership studies rather than narrowing into one discipline. I was able to do an interdisciplinary major and get a lot of great perspectives to help sculpt my education.
So I chose leadership studies in Jepson kind of to complement my Robin School of Business Education.
Jepson is a completely unique experience.
I took leadership and social sciences my first semester, and then justice and civil society my second semester because I'm of honor. And there was just something about Jepson that stood up.
I think there's something about a Jepson student that really stands out, and if you can put yourself in the classroom, I think you'll understand exactly what that level of engagement, that level of intellectual curiosity is.
And I just love it, so that's why Jepson.
One of the biggest takeaways that I'm going to get from my Jepson experience is to never take anything in the world around us at face value and to always question what I'm seeing and what I'm learning, kind of asking those critical questions as to why is this happening, what led to this point, and how do we maybe work on fixing these things based on lessons that we hopefully have learned from the past.
I feel like it showed me that there's so much else out there. There's so much you need to understand and study and think about. There's a lot more than just one perspective on something. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I took away from Jepson.
The world is increasingly more complicated and more globalized. So in order to come up with new solutions to these new issues, we need to think differently. So one of the most important things that you can do is just learn how to think.
In terms of leadership studies, the lesson or idea that really stuck with me is that followers can actually be leaders.
Most of the great leaders learned how to be followers, were mentored. The ones that turned out really badly, I mean, they still could be great in their talent, but not so great in what they ended up doing, were people who never learned to follow. They only learned to lead and do exactly what they wanted to do all the time without thinking about other people.
A leader must be a servant first, a follower sometimes.
Well, my favorite memory is a two-part experience. For sophomore year, I had critical thinking with Dr. Price, and after the semester we went to his house for dinner. It was an absolutely incredible experience being able to go into one of my professor's houses, meet his family. We had a great night, but then for my senior year, I had Dr. Price again, and we went back to his house for dinner. And as soon as I walk in, his wife actually not only remembered who I was, but remembered this story I told about my Twitter account from 2 years ago. So just between the whole 2-year experience, it really shows the relationship that we do have with our professors here, that we're not just a name, and even out of the classroom, 2 years later, they still remember us and want to continue this relationship with us.
My favorite Jepson memory was the Jepson at Cambridge program because I got to see the UK and meet new friends.
Well, my favorite Jepson memory is when my social movements class staged an uprising against bad, and we all decided not to complete our quizzes, and instead we all just wrote "There is power in a union" on our quizzes.
I've spent an amazing semester tutoring different inner city school kids.
We got to go into the community and volunteer.
We got to go to Spain for a week. We got to put on the Merchant of Venice with members of the community, and it was really fun.
I did a police ride-along.
I got to have dinner with President of Czech Republic.
I got to volunteer at a preschool, and I really loved that. I will say it's extremely hard to choose my one Jepson experience because there's been so many that I've really enjoyed.
I interned at a World at School organization. Our main goal was working with Malala Yousafzai, which she was the 15-year-old girl shot in Pakistan last fall. And we worked with her and the UN, and we actually helped with her project with the UN this summer. She had a big speech with them and got to meet the head of the UN and everything, so it was very exciting.
I traveled all the way to just outside of Bomet, Kenya, which is very rural, about 4 hours from Nairobi, and worked with a mission hospital there called Tenwick.
I interned at Translation Advertising Agency in New York City this past summer, and I worked directly under the social strategy and partnerships and distribution team. I worked with clients such as Bud Light, McDonald's, and State Farm, and it was a really wonderful experience, especially going into the advertising industry not as an advertising major, and so many of the other interns around me were. And it was really wonderful to have actually an advantage over the advertising majors, just based on my leadership experience here in Jepson, knowing what it takes to emerge as a leader in the group, and it worked out well for me. I was the lead presenter in the final product to the senior management of the company.
So I completed an internship with a nonprofit organization in Eugene, Oregon called Volunteers in Medicine.
So I interned in Burbank, California with the Disney ABC television group, and I got to help out with the photo shoots there.
My first internship started off in South Africa. I worked at a lion conservation program.
I interned this last summer with the Greater Richmond Chamber of Commerce in the leadership department.
I was able to intern with IMG, specifically the IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida.
I was a Burris Fellow with the Jepson School here at the University of Richmond, and something that I got to do with that is that I was able to fund my unpaid internship, which could either be in the arts or it could be something that was educational based, and I was actually working at the Biggs Museum of American Art in Dover, Delaware.
I interned at the Bank of New York Mellon in New York City.
So I was lucky enough to receive a scholarship from Jepson to go intern in Seattle with the mayor of Seattle.
So after my freshman year, I interned at Global Giving, which is an online nonprofit platform.
Well, my internship was pretty much surrounded at all times by leaders and leadership. I worked at the White House last summer.
I was privileged enough to receive the Jepson Summer Research Fellowship Grant, and I got to work with Dr. Hoyt. It was a great experience. I wanted to research and compare Indian women in the U.S. to Caucasian American women in the U.S. and their views of women issues such as rape, abortion, and contraception. I thought it was an extremely important thing to look into just because these women issues have proven to be extremely important in U.S. politics today, and the Indian American population is growing tremendously.
I'm studying the responsibilities of medical doctors, and I'm talking about the profit motive in medicine.
I'm working with Dr. Chula this semester, and I'm writing on dangerous leadership, looking through the lens of the Dominic Strauss-Kahn scandal, looking at leadership effectiveness, narcissistic leadership, the relationship between power and vice, and power and the abuse of power in certain organizations.
My research is on the current education reform dialogue. I am going to critique it and give my own suggestions for where I think it needs to go.
And I'm working on my social justice concentration thesis, and it's on the educational achievements of African American males and their vulnerability to social and economic changes. I'm going to be studying the history of the liberal arts tradition through education and looking at specifically how that can and should inform modern leadership studies programs.
My favorite class was also my toughest class, and that was leadership ethics with Dr. Flanagan.
Leadership Breakthroughs, which was actually taught by Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia.
Professor Martin's History of Economic Thought. My favorite class is Leadership Stage and Screen with Professor Bazzaio. My favorite class at Jepson was Learning Creative Learning, taught by Dr. Shields.
Theories and Models and Conflict Resolution courses.
My favorite Jepson class was probably Justice and Civil Society.
My favorite class was Justice and Civil Society with Dr. Kaufman.
Every single class listed was something that I was interested in learning about and wanted to take.
I think my favorite class actually was probably the toughest class at Jepson. The Leadership Capstone Ethics class was definitely the most difficult and for me the most interesting.
I would say that the toughest class I took was Leadership Ethics.
Ethics. Ethics. Ethics. Ethics. Ethics. Ethics.
Ethics.
Definitely ethics.
I remember first going into that class the first day thinking, oh no, it's the dreaded ethics class, what am I going to do?
I want to be a guidance counselor, preferably in an inner city middle or high school. And then I want to work for the Board of Education in New York City and change policy. And my number one goal in life is to get the bars taken off of the schools. I think that the way schools look has a huge effect on how kids learn, and the aesthetics and what environment kids are placed in really has a big impact on the way their brain works and how they can focus and concentrate on what needs to be learned. And so I want to hopefully do that, because going to public school for a few years before I got a scholarship to private school, I hated the environment I was in. I felt like I was in a jail, and I know that other kids experience the same thing, and I want to change that for them.
I am planning on doing a dual degree program for a master's in public health and a master's in science of nursing. So hopefully I'll be a community nurse practitioner when I graduate.
After graduation, I'll be doing Teach for America, and I'll be placed in the Miami-Dade Corps.
I'm going to be working for Capital One.
I want to play basketball overseas professionally for a couple years, and then after go into a sports marketing company. And even though that isn't necessarily a leadership kind of job, I feel like leadership can be applied to any sort of job that you work.
I'm currently employed with Deloitte Consulting in the Federal Strategy and Operations practice in DC.
My internship actually ended with me landing a full-time offer from Dow Jones, so I will be moving to New York City after graduation and starting to work there.
My plans for after graduation are currently to attend VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, in the fall to pursue a Master's of Social Work.
I plan on volunteering abroad in Peace Corps.
I want to be a lawyer, so next year I'll be heading off to law school.
Going into the Army, I think leadership studies will be, I think I'll use it every single day. As a platoon leader, hopefully as I climb through the ranks, especially as a young lieutenant, being in charge of 30 some odd people, some of whom are more experienced and older than you. Leadership studies is going to be tremendously helpful.
So next year I will be moving to New York, and I'm working with PricewaterhouseCoopers in their consulting firm. And I'm hoping to be aligned with their sustainability and environmental portion of that firm because I'm double majoring in environmental studies and leadership studies. And I'm anticipating that I'm going to be using a lot of my knowledge that I learned in Jepson, including public speaking and critical thinking, that have really been focused on in most of my courses.
Good afternoon. My name is Kirsten Soderlin, and I'm one of the Associate Deans at the Jepson School of Leadership Studies. We love this video. I'm very excited to start using it when we do admissions programs, although I'm not so certain about the ethics section. That might be, I don't know how that's going to work in terms of recruiting our next group. But it's my pleasure today to recognize some of our students who have served the Jepson School in a variety of ways over the last 2.5 years. So what I'm going to ask them to do, I'm going to call each one of them up, and I'm going to ask them to line up so that we can all recognize them, but also so that we can provide them with some all-important Jepson swag. And I've talked to Rooney, who's the first on the list, so everybody else just follow his cue. It's all riding on you, Rooney. Okay, Rooney Columbus, part of Jepson Corps. Molly Kramer, member and president this year of JSGA. Shay Ellis, JSGA. Shelley Holland, Jepson Corps and a member of this year's Ethics Bowl team, which went to nationals. Lindsay Hudson, Jepson Corps, and a member of the Ethics Bowl team. Aubrey James, JSGA. Jack Mahoney, Jepson Corps. Shiksha Matani, Jepson Corps. Wow. Janine Mowbray, Jepson Corps. Patrick Murphy, whose family is sporting the fabulous shirts, member of the Ethics Bowl team. Matt Palmisano, JSGA. Sam Rabb, Jepson Corps. John Sobieski, JSGA. How about curving a little bit? Yeah. And Ryder Tobin, a member of this year's Ethics Bowl team. So I also want to just note that we do have one little extra item for Rooney, who's been our student assistant this past semester, who has learned and developed skills that he never thought he would know. So we just have a special little gift for him that he'll be able to explore later, but it's mementos of all of his fabulous jobs and things that he's done for us this semester.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Terry Price. I'm the other Associate Dean of the Jepson School. In past years, they allowed me to give out things as well, but last year I got really tangled up in the honor cords, and now I have the Dean assisting me. Dr. McDowell said I look like a kitten with a ball of yarn. So. The newest members of the Jepson School Leadership Studies Honor Society are in the top 10% of their class. They have a GPA of at least 3.2 overall and at least 3.5 in leadership studies. I've seen the GPAs, they are much higher. When I call your names, please come forward. Kristen Bailey. Rooney Columbus. Colleen Conley. Laura Del Prato. Shay Ellis. Shelley Holland. John Sobieski. Ethan Wolf. It was a great Twitter story, I'm telling you. And finally, Rose Wynn. One more round of applause for all of them. I'd now like to recognize students who completed concentrations in leadership studies. First, Tyler Barbarin did a concentration in social justice. Her advisor was Dr. Hayter. Tyler, would you please come up? Jen Billings completed a concentration in international leadership. Her advisor was Dr. Chula. Travis Burr, his concentration was called Crisis Leadership in American History. His advisor was Dr. Goethals. Allison Frazier completed a concentration called Social Justice and Gender with Dr. Hoyt. Shiksha Matani, her concentration was called Social Justice and Gender Equality, and her advisor was Dr. Williamson. Patrick Murphy, his concentration was environmental business with Dr. Forsyth. Cece Pandel, her concentration was business leadership with Dr. Kong. And Ryder Tobin completed a concentration in public leadership with Dr. Williamson. And finally, I'd like to recognize the students who completed our honors program, which included a brutal year-long thesis. I'm going to call your name again. Please come forward. Rooney Columbus. His thesis was called, "What Was He Thinking? Dr. William Cooper's Decision to Increase the University of Richmond's Tuition by 31% in 2004. His advisor was Dr. Goethals. Shay Ellis, her honors thesis was called Leadership with Liberal Arts from Amphibia to Jepson. Her advisor was Dr. Chula. Shelley Holland, her thesis was called The Forces of Value, Structure and Content of Self-Reported Values by Civilian and Military Science Students. Her advisor was Dr. Forsyth. John Sobieski, his thesis was The Moral Price of the Profit Motive in Medicine. His advisor was Dr. Flanagan. And Rose Wynn, her thesis was called A Bad Following, the Big Five Personality Factors and Follower Reactions to Unethical Leader Behavior. Her advisor was Dr. Forsyth. I'm now going to turn things over to Dean Peart.
Have to return the dean's box to its proper place. That's all right. It's now my pleasure to announce the Frederick M. Jablin Award for Undergraduate Research. The Frederick M. Jablin Award for Undergraduate Research is given in honor of Leadership Studies Professor Fred Jablin, a beloved teacher and scholar at the school. The recipient of this award already received funding during her senior year to assist with her research. The 2014 recipient is Shelley Holland, who completed an honors thesis entitled, as you just heard, The Forces of Value, Structure, and Content of Self-Reported Values by Civilian and Military Science Students. Let's congratulate Shelley. It's now my pleasure to announce the James McGregor Burns Award. The James McGregor Burns Award recipient must have demonstrated an outstanding grasp of the body of knowledge associated with leadership studies, and also excelled in his or her studies at the university generally. Being actively involved in service to the Jepson School, the university, and the community, shown an ability to generalize and apply leadership theory and research in unique and imaginative ways, and displayed the capacity both to lead others and to help others lead themselves. The 2014 recipient of the James McGregor Burns Award has served on the Jepson School Government Association since being admitted to the school 2.5 years ago, and has served as a university tour guide since freshman year and as an academic tutor for the past 2 years. This individual has tackled both the rigor of leadership studies as well as advanced chemistry and biology classes, producing an honors thesis in leadership studies and a recently published article in a science journal. This person is dedicated to facilitating organizational and social change in healthcare. I'm pleased to announce that the 2014 recipient of the James McGregor Burns Award is John Sobieski. And now I'd like to introduce Molly Kramer, the president of JSGA for the past year, whose brother apparently convinced her that she should come to the Jepson School. Molly.
I don't think I'll need this either. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today to celebrate this very special occasion, our Jepson senior finale. My name is Molly Kramer, and I've had the pleasure of serving as the Jepson Student Government Association president for this last year. I'm so very honored to be here, commemorating our many accomplishments as Jepson students. Throughout the entirety of this weekend, today as a Jepson community, and tomorrow when we sit with the rest of our graduating class. I'm proud that I will be sitting next to, undoubtedly, some of the best, brightest, kindest, and most interesting people I have met throughout my 4 years at UR. And no matter what Dr. Ayers says about Jepson being the huggiest of all the schools at Richmond, or even the extra time it will add to our very long commencement ceremony tomorrow, I will be hugging any and all of my Jepson family members on that stage tomorrow. But before I get too excited about tomorrow, or start worrying about tripping my way across that stage, I want to give a shout out to the people who brought us here today and make this all possible. To our parents and our families, we wouldn't be here without you today, both literally and figuratively. Thank you for being patient with us during our freshman and sophomore years when we hit you with the news that we wanted to be leadership studies majors. Yeah. Thank you for supporting us. We owe so much of these great accomplishments to you. To our faculty, thank you for challenging us, for teaching us how to dive nerd deep into our studies, for helping us see the world through a new lens, and letting us play with your dogs and our children when we're in a desperate need for a study break. To the incredible Jepson administration, you all do so much that make these 3 years in Jepson both meaningful and smooth. Thank you so much for everything that you do. To my seniors, thank you for understanding me when I say that something is so paternalistic. Thank you for laughing at me in Cambridge because you also think that the name of Ritz sounds really, really funny in Latin. But mostly, thank you for debating me, challenging me, and helping me to be the best version of me. And now, it is my very great pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker for the evening. Dr. Bruce Heilman is a true Renaissance man who has served as the University of Richmond's Chancellor since 1988, and as its president and CEO for 16 years before that. His academic career began after World War II ended, courtesy of the GI Bill, because he never actually graduated from high school. He made up for lost time by receiving degrees from both Campbellsville University and Vanderbilt University. He has since received honorary doctorates from 12 colleges and universities and has buildings named for him on 3 campuses. He is a well-traveled man who, in addition to spending time in the South Pacific and Japan as a Marine, has visited more than 145 countries. He is an adventurer who developed a keen interest in riding motorcycles around his 83rd birthday. He's since ridden his Harley-Davidson across all of the lower 48 states. He turns 88 this summer, and to celebrate, he's riding his motorcycle to and from Fairbanks, Alaska, a 10,000-mile journey. He is generous with his time. Throughout his career, he has served on countless boards and nonprofit organizations. Today, he remains a trustee of both Campbellsville University and William Jewell College. He also continues to serve his country. He is the national spokesman for the Greatest Generation Foundation, an international nonprofit that promotes recognition and respect for war veterans of past and current conflicts. He is a founding member of the National Museum of the Marine Corps in Quantico and a member of the board of directors of the Virginia War Memorial Educational Foundation. He and his late wife, Betty, have 5 children, all of whom are UR graduates, 11 grandchildren, 9 of whom are UR graduates, and 5 great-grandchildren. Please join me in welcoming our keynote speaker, Dr. Bruce Heilman.
A man stood at the pearly gate. His face was scarred and old. He stood before the pearly gates for a welcome to the fold. "What have you done," St. Peter asked, "to gain admission here?" "I've been a college president, sir, for many, many a year." The pearly gates swung open wide. St. Peter touched the bell. "Come in," he said, "choose your harp. You've had your time in hell." Dean Peart, members of the faculty, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and especially graduates and your families. Only President Ayers and I can verify the accuracy of the verse just cited. But irrespective of that fact, reality today is our return for whatever long suffering may have been required to bring it all to fruition. You are the rewards of our efforts. It is indeed my privilege to share in this special occasion, to which I understand I was chosen by the students. What greater honor could you have than that? I have developed a strong friendship with Dean Peart and have great appreciation for her leadership and the strength of this institution, serving outstanding students like those of you before me this afternoon. I have watched the dynamic developments of this school from its beginning with pride, and standing before this graduating class further elevates my level of appreciation and respect for all of you who've had a part in making the Jepson Leadership School what it has become today. My presence as your speaker is unique in several ways, and I intend to capitalize upon that uniqueness. First, I suspect that my age of 88 sets me aside from most, if not all, of those facing graduating seniors this spring. Further, I doubt that there are any other World War II veterans commanding such podiums as this one. 94% of the 16 million who engaged in that conflict are deceased, and the fewer than 1 million remaining are dying at the rate of 30,000 a month. 5 years from now, most will have succumbed to old age, so you caught me just in time. Few remember what's said at such a gathering as this, but often remember who spoke. So hopefully my age, and that I am a World War II veteran who still rides a motorcycle, will afford that clue if eating in my dining room for 4 years isn't adequate. Age also might suggest that I should address you while sitting down, and if not, you may want to stay awake just to see whether I'm still standing when I finish. Today, some 71 years after joining the Marine Corps at age 17, I am the national spokesperson for the Greatest Generation Foundation, and as such, I represent veterans living and dead who laid their lives on the line for their country. You who are before me this time are the descendants of that generation. Your fathers and mothers are their children. Representing your grandfathers, your great-uncles, and all your predecessors who served in World War II, I want to share some of my story as representative of the many who fought in that conflict. I have titled my address, "You may not know where you're going till you get there, so don't be surprised if you end up someplace else." We of my era lived under circumstances which made truth out of this descriptive title. My life history, like many others of my generation, was determined more by circumstance than by design. For many, life became a process of walking through doors as they opened and discovering pathways incidental to conditions dictated by the realities of history. From the beginning of my journey from a high school failure to the presidency of a college and a university evolved as a stream of events carried me from one unanticipated result to another. I grew up in a tenant house on a dairy farm where my father was a sharecropper. He dropped out of school at age 12 to help his mother support his 2 younger brothers and a sister after his father lost the farm to creditors during the Great Depression, committed suicide. The tenant house had no permanent foundation. Rocks were spaced on which the supporting timbers were placed, leaving plenty of openings for the cold winds of winter to enter and the wind to wind their way through cracks in the floor to keep the house well air-conditioned and cold. There was no radio or television or refrigerator or washing machine. We cooked on a stove heated by wood and carried an oil lamp to light our way from room to room. Because the upstairs was a converted attic, we 4 children slept under a hot tin roof. My father's $30 a month didn't have to cover the cost of electricity or gas or water or telephone. None of these were available. Our refrigerator was a deep well in which to lower milk and food to keep it cool and preserved. We raised our vegetables and meat and made do with chickens and eggs from the backyard. We hunted and ate squirrels and rabbits. On Saturday night, we bartered extra eggs for groceries at the county seat, where only occasionally for 15 cents I would have the luxury of seeing a movie. My parents weren't privileged to attend high school, but were very much self-educated leaders in the church and the community. There was no one I knew until I was grown who had been to college, except the preacher, who was a struggling seminary student because the church couldn't afford a full-time regular minister. In this setting, there was little expectation for children growing up to do anything than to perpetuate the life around them. I could, however, observe trucks passing on the dusty highway and visualize how wonderful it would be to become a truck driver. Having to wake at 4 in the morning to milk 12 or 15 cows and to labor in the hot summer sun in tobacco and corn was not what I envisioned as a desirable future. So with that background to guide my ambitions, I saw no reason to do more than I had to in school, so I made up for my lost sleep while doing a man's job, milking cows at 4 a.m. every morning. Thus, I failed algebra twice and did so poorly otherwise, I didn't qualify for a diploma after 4 years. With a background such as this, how could I have spent my entire adult life in the profession of higher education as a senior officer, including 21 years as president of a college and a university? It all resulted from a happenstance in history. Some might call it fate. Others might interpret it as divine providence. But surely it was unplanned, unexpected, and unpredictable. When World War II intervened, I joined the Marines after the high school principal suggested that they could do me more good than high school. I landed on the beach of Okinawa in combat at age 18. Following that battle, I served in the occupation of Japan, where I walked in the ashes of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, unaware of the presence of risk of radiation. After promotion to sergeant at age 20 and completing my enlistment, I now realize that the GI Bill afforded an unusual opportunity for an education. I applied to a senior college, where I discovered that I didn't qualify for admission. Because of my abysmal high school record, I had to settle for a small, unheralded junior college, where for the first time I made good grades and graduated with a 3.8 average and was elected the best all-around male student. Here I met and married my wife in my freshman year and fathered 6 children before finishing graduate school. I was now beginning my long journey in higher education, which over the next 60 years would carry me to every functional position in the profession. That little junior college provided the most important educational experience of my life. Here I was given the chance to make up for my years of squandered opportunity. It was here that I received a solid foundation in my classwork. But equally important, I learned that success in life is determined by the character of the journey. Success by impeccable and rigid standards and an unwillingness to settle for anything less than enduring principles. With new confidence in myself, I entered Peabody College, now part of Vanderbilt University. Following completion of a master's degree and 2 years in public accounting, I was employed by the college that had turned me down as a student to become the second highest paid person next to the president. I was the chief financial officer at age 28 at that institution. So what is my point? It is that anyone can be anything they set their mind to be if circumstances are conducive, even if they had something else in mind. So don't be surprised, as I was, if you end up somewhere else, a place other than you presently anticipate. According to Taylor Caldwell, the purpose of education is to enlarge the soul, to widen the mind, to stimulate wonder, to excite the intellect, and to awaken dormant facilities for the exaltation of the possessor. Plutarch said, a mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be ignited. So as seen in the context of these definitions, education is exciting, inspiring, stimulating, and exalting. I'm here today after 43 years because I enjoy the life of the campus and of the mind. I continue to engage in youthful things like riding my Harley, while remembering that age is only a place on the calendar. Yet I seek to be realistic and take seriously Robert Frost's poem, What 50 Said. When I was young, my teachers were the old. I gave up fire for form till I was cold. I suffered like a medal being cast. I went to school to age to learn the past. Now I am old, my teachers are the young. What can't be molded must be cracked and sprung. I strain at lessons fit to start a suture. I go to school to youth to learn the future. The lesson here is that at whatever age, we continue to learn if we have an open mind. And learning is the best medicine for deferring old age. I never dreamed that with 198 students at the time, Campbellsville Junior College would become a university of 3,500 students, or that I would serve on its board, or that a building would bear my name and another the name of my wife, or that a granddaughter would become a graduate, my son would become an administrator, and that would be cited with a Distinguished Alumni Award and an honorary degree. But irrespective of where you end up, my charge to you is to keep on learning so that you'll be prepared to accept that special opportunity when it comes your way. Above all, do something of which you'll be proud and which serves mankind, so that you will know with Edwin Markham that there is a destiny that makes us brothers. None goes his way alone. All that we send into the lives of others comes back into our own. And don't quit living to the fullest at whatever age you find yourselves. Life isn't over till it's over. Keep your bucket list long and full. So in this spirit, I conclude with words from Alfred Lloyd Tennyson's Ulysses, as he spoke to his compatriots in his waning days to bolster their resolve, to encourage their persistence, and to reinforce his own desire to stay engaged. How dull it is to pause, to make an end, to rust unburnished, not to shine in use, as though to breathe were life. Old age hath yet its honor and its toil. Some work of noble worth may yet be done. Come, my friends, it's not too late to seek a newer world. Push off and sitting well in order, smite the sounding furrows, for my purpose holds to sail beyond the sunset and the baths of all the western stars until I die. It may be that the Gulfs will wash us down. It may be we shall touch the happy isles and see the great Achilles whom we knew. Though much is taken, much abides, and though we're not that strength which in past years moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will, to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. May you find an open door besides every one that closes, and always with the spirit, attitude, and confidence that a successful outcome will occur because you're among the most sought after graduates anywhere. And because the world steps aside to let those pass who know where they're going, let me be the first to get out of your way. Thank you.
I'd like to thank our seniors, Lindsay, Patrick, Sam, Hayden, and Jackson, for that wonderful musical selection. Thanks very much. That's a hard act to follow. I'm not going to say very much. I just wanted to remind you that as you leave the auditorium today, you can pick up an insert which says who was awarded which awards and so on. So please do that. And then please join all of us. Our faculty will be here, and I'm sure they'd love to meet all of you. And so we'll adjourn to a reception in the Maudlin Center. Just go out the doors and to your left. And please congratulate our class of 2014 one more time.